Nope, this is not Sunday Night Football, but it is the week of the 2022 NFL Draft and the perfect time to have on the show the social media QB for Super Bowl 57, which will be played next year in Glendale, Arizona, to share how he keeps the premier sporting event story alive way before, during, and after the big game. Welcome to the Business of Story. I'm your host, Park Howell, and in addition to bringing you amazing story artists like today's guest to help you craft and tell compelling stories that sell, I'm also available to train your teams how to excel through the stories they tell. I provide fun, entertaining, educational, and most importantly, transformational, in-person, virtual, and hybrid Business of Story masterclasses, mastery courses, and keynotes. Take a deep breath, Park. Or you can take one of our quick online courses, the ABTs of Selling and or the ABTs of Branding. Just go to bit.ly/ABT courses to get started today. If you're interested in any of my courses for your people, please shoot me a note at park@businessofstory.com. Imagine you're in charge of sharing the story for one of the most iconic sporting events the world over. I'd imagine there'd be some pre-game jitters to make sure you get your Super Bowl storytelling just right, given the entire world is watching and following. Today's guest, Jeremy McPeak, the social media QB for the coming Super Bowl 57, shares the highs and lows of guiding storytelling around the big game.
I'd say in my career, I learned early on how to not get your hand slapped and make the right judgment call or run things up the flagpole. If you're not sure about something or you have an idea that might be a little out there, a little something that a little edgy or a little unique, you want to get buy-in from a couple other people to make sure that your thinking on the matter is correct and the others agree with it. So you don't want to be like a renegade and just start posting stuff. That'll get you in trouble on social media. And I've seen a lot of people over the years get fired because they used the wrong emojis and offended someone or said something that they thought was really funny and nobody else did. So you got to be really careful.
Jeremy is an award-winning thought leader, journalist, speaker, and digital consultant with more than 2 decades of experience telling stories and achieving business objectives through traditional print, online, social, and mobile channels. After spending 24 years with the Phoenix Suns, most recently as VP of Digital and Brand Strategy, Jeremy launched his own consulting business in October 2016. He has worked for such iconic sports brands as, well, the NFL, NBA, WNBA, Fiesta Bowl, UFit health clubs, Talking Stick Resort Arena, as well as non-sports entities including Dignity Health AZ, Family Life Ministries, and several celebrities. Named one of the country's top 30 online sports marketers in 2014, Jeremy has been a featured or keynote speaker at more than 30 conferences throughout the country, as well as overseas in Amsterdam, Melbourne, Dublin, London, Berlin, and Slovenia, of all places. But this is not Jeremy's first Super Bowl rodeo, to mix metaphors. You'll hear what it takes to keep the social media storytelling rolling all year long as the new NFL season gets underway this week for reals with the draft. So please welcome to the Business of Story, Jeremy McPeak. Jeremy, welcome to the show.
Hey, Park, how are you? Thanks for having me on.
I am doing great. Now, you are one of these communications professionals in Arizona whose reputation definitely preceded him, at least as I'm concerned, because I had known about you and heard of you from so many people, including everyone from Stan Yamamoto, who was our former supervisor of account services at Park & Co., to Ray Artigue, who's, an absolute legend communicator in the Valley of the Sun. And it was Ray that brought us together a couple of years ago when we did some tag team presenting for APS, Arizona Public Service. And it was so great to finally meet you in person. And so it's even better now to have you here on the show. Welcome to the business of story.
Well, I appreciate it, Park. I love what you do. I love storytelling. So I love people who are out there telling the story of storytelling. And you are too kind to share all those kind words. But Stan Yamamoto, I haven't heard that name in a long time. So that brought a smile to my face. And of course, Ray Artigue was one of my mentors early in my career and somebody that I still go to lunch with 2 or 3 times a year and try to pick his brain and learn from, because he's a brilliant marketer here in Arizona as well.
Absolutely. And especially in the sporting world where you do the vast majority of your work. Give us a little bit of your backstory. You are now, second time around, the head social media QB for Super Bowl 57 that's coming to Glendale, Arizona here in February of 2023. And we're going to dive in and talk a little bit about what do you do with that story? How do you keep it alive? And what do you look for in that storytelling? But before that, what's your backstory? How do you find yourself here today doing that?
Yeah, so I'll give you the short version so we don't keep everybody on the podcast for hours. But I was a journalism major in college, wanted to be a sports writer. I wanted to work for Sports Illustrated someday. That was kind of my goal back then. But I was a huge Phoenix Suns fan in high school, and I got a job when I was in college working at the Suns team shop at the local shopping mall. And then from there, got an internship in their basketball communications department. From there, got a job working on their team magazine after I graduated college, Arizona State University and the Walter Cronkite School. And shortly after that, the NBA launched NBA.com. And I've told this story a few times, but I was in our PR director's office, Julie Fye, and I was in her office when she got the fax from the NBA with a memo explaining that they were launching this new portal on the information superhighway, and each team was going to be responsible for a page. And she read this fax and handed it to me and says, "I don't know what this is. You do this." And so that's kind of how my career shifted. And I started working on our team website, helped launch Suns.com. And from there, just kind of grew up learning about digital and kind of growing with it and learning about websites and then video content and live streaming and eventually social media and mobile apps, and spent 24 years with the Phoenix Suns. And one of my former supervisors or bosses, Jay Perry, had become the president of the Arizona Super Bowl host committee in 2013. And I had been dabbling a little bit in social media consulting in my spare time. Was working with the NFL Players Association and a couple other clients just kind of for fun on the side, because I really was starting to fall in love with social at that point. Jay recruited me to join her team, asked the Suns for permission to borrow me. And so I was kind of working 2 jobs at the same time there for about a year and a half, leading up to the Super Bowl in 2015. And I loved it so much. And I loved covering that event and everything around it and consulting and working with her team, that eventually in 2016, I decided to leave the Suns and start my own social media agency. So that's what I'm doing today.
And
that was supposed to be a short story, but
all good. You caught us up. That was the abridged Blinkist version.
Right.
You were the social media QB for Super Bowl 2015, which was what? Super Bowl 50, 51?
49.
Here? 49.
40,
and that
49.
was the ill-fated Seattle Seahawks don't hand it to Marshawn Lynch for a 1.5-yard victory, but try to throw it over the middle and get it intercepted and lose to the Patriots game. I know I was sitting at the opposite end zone when that all went down, and being a huge Seattle Seahawk fan where I grew up, I was crushed. And I will tell you, they have never been the same ball club ever since that play.
Yeah, that one I'm sure hurt. I feel for you for sure. That was quite a game, and of course Tom Brady pulled that one out for the Patriots, or maybe you could say the Seahawks handed it to him. Either way, but Brady was in our last 2 Super Bowls here in Arizona, and he was also in the Super Bowl in Houston, which I was the social media quarterback for their host committee as well. So it'll be interesting to have a Super Bowl next year with no Tom Brady in it here in Arizona.
How many Super Bowl QB social media guys have you been? How often have you done this?
Boy, I think I've worked 7 Super Bowl weeks in different capacities. So I worked a couple of them with the NFL Players Association, the Arizona host committee in 15, the Houston committee in 17, and then the NFL hired me in 2020 to lead their social media command center in Miami, which is really It's a I'm sure we'll talk about it, but it's really a customer service focused role for 2 weeks. There's a team of about 25 to 40 people who are just monitoring social and talking, seeing what people are talking about and answering questions that people have. So I kind of led that for the NFL in 2020, and now I'm back with Arizona again, looking ahead to 2023.
Right on. And you were just at this last game, no doubt, taking notes, seeing how they did it. And how does that inform what you will be doing this year?
Yeah, absolutely. So our team was out there, our small host committee team was out there, really observing all the operations around Los Angeles, everything from traffic control to fan engagement to sponsor activation and partnership hosting and the parties and events. My particular role that week in LA was to really capture the atmosphere and the vibe of the city on social media, so that our followers on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and LinkedIn would kind of see what an exciting, fun atmosphere it is, and want to be a part of it next year. Now, obviously, it hasn't been that long since we hosted one, so probably a lot of people in Arizona remember that anyway. But still, it's we've got a built-in audience of close to 100,000 social media followers that followed us from the last Super Bowl, that are still following all of our accounts, and they so it's a chance for us to re-engage with them, start to reactivate our accounts, and get people excited about what's coming next year.
Well, and the new season is really kicking off this week with the NFL draft, at least in my mind. It's when everything ramps up around the teams. Do you do anything special, or when do you really kick into gear to start telling and sharing that Super Bowl story, to start bringing more attention to an event that I would imagine doesn't require a lot of attention getting? It gets it in its own right.
That's true. The NFL is one of the biggest events in the world, really, every year. I think they said there were more than 200 million people who watched this last one on television, and that was a survey done by the NFL and Nielsen, which took a look not just at television viewers, but groups of people and watch parties, and they determined that more than 2/3 of the United States population was watching the game, which is just unbelievable. So, yeah, the NFL doesn't need me to promote the game by any means. But for us, it's really about promoting what the host committee is doing in the state. And that's all of our community initiatives, our events we'll be doing with schools and public parks and everything like that, to bring the NFL attention here and give back to our local community as a thank you for hosting everything that's coming up. Also, all of our social responsibility programs. So it's really promoting all of those. It's about promoting opportunities for Arizonans to get involved. So we have a Business Connect program, which is really a supplier diversity initiative designed to promote equitable and inclusive businesses at NFL events. So we really were promoting that earlier this year. We've got a volunteer program. We're going to need thousands and thousands of Arizonans to volunteer and help with everything from traffic control to ticketing to parking to security to safety to just being those, Walmart greeters, if you will, and welcoming the people that are coming in from out of state. There'll be probably a couple 100,000 people that travel to Arizona to be a part of Super Bowl week, who don't live here and maybe have never been here before. So it's important for the community to put on a really good face and show people what a great place this is to live, to vacation, to have a business. And so on social media, it's all about telling that story year round, in addition to engaging with football fans and getting them excited.
Do you have a priority of channels that you use that seems to pull better than others on social media for this kind of storytelling around the Super Bowl? So to be clear, you're not so much talking about the big game as you are all of the surrounding events and impact, social impact, business impact, volunteerism, and so forth for the game. So in doing that, are there some channels that work better than others, or is it all really target audience dependent and where they like to get their news?
Yes, yes, and yes. So I will say that we will be talking football as well. That's really part of how we kind of engage with the local sports audience and sports fans here in the Valley. So every football Sunday next season, starting with the draft this week, through free agency, through training camps, through every single Sunday and Monday Night Football, I'll be tweeting and posting about what's going on in the league and getting fans excited and asking them who they think's coming to Arizona and how does this team look, and of course cheering on our hometown Arizona Cardinals. But so there will be a lot of football talk. Don't get me wrong. But in terms of the priority of channels, each channel has its own value, and so I can't even say that there's one more important than another. LinkedIn is incredibly important to us and a lot more important than probably it was in 2015. But for getting the word out about the Business Connect program and for recruiting volunteers from Arizona and promoting and announcing our marketing partnership deals or sponsorships, LinkedIn is really important for that. Twitter is where we're probably going to be doing most of that football engagement and just interacting with sports fans and showing support to our local sports teams, the Cardinals, the Arizona Diamondbacks, the Phoenix Suns, the Coyotes, really trying to engage with their fan bases as well, because those are sports fans who will probably be interested in the Super Bowl activities. Instagram is where we'll be showing a lot of photos and a lot of video and posting a lot of our Instagram reels and Instagram stories, showing all of those different events that we're doing throughout the year, those community programs, those sponsorship activations. We've got some fun activations going on with our different sponsors all year round. And so we'll be doing some creative things out in the community, and we'll be having different events year round. It's not just the week of Super Bowl when things will be busy. We'll have, I don't know the exact number, but we'll probably have 50 to 75 different events between now and, next January. So we'll be using all of our channels to really show fans everything that we're doing in the community and trying to get them all involved and excited.
Can you give us an example of maybe your experience in the past, maybe from Super Bowl to 2015,
right,
of something that was happening and how you shared that story on social, and maybe how it blew up beyond your wildest imagination? You thought it was a good story, you wanted to get it up there, and then it just took off.
Boy, that's a good question that I don't have an immediate answer jumping to mind. I think, I can't think of one specific story that really was big for us. There were a couple instances Super Bowl week where I was fortunate enough to get some unique content that really blew up on social when again the world was focused on Arizona at that point. There was a halftime entertainers press conference where Katy Perry talked to about 400 reporters about what she was planning for the Super Bowl halftime. And after that event, it was held in the Phoenix Convention Center. After that press conference, I had walked into the NFL experience at the time. Now it's called Super Bowl experience. But just as I happened to walk in, I saw her come out a side door. And she had a couple security guards with her, and she was walking into NFL experience as well to do an interview, I think, on NFL Network. And I was right there. So I whipped out my phone and was capturing some video of her waving at fans and smiling and laughing. And she turned and looked like right at my camera, just kind of did a smiley wave, just as a security guard like shoved me out of the way. And I, of course, edited out the security guard shoving me. But that video blew up and got huge numbers because, of course, all the Katy Perry fans in the world, started sharing it, retweeting it, reposting it. So that blew up. And then another one was after that game was over, I was leaving the stadium and I was in the bowels of State Farm Stadium walking out. And just as I walked past this door, it opened and Tom Brady walked out. And he was all dressed in his suit. He'd already done his media stuff. He was walking out with, probably his own bodyguard. And he just had this look of just, relief and satisfaction and happiness on his face. And I just, again, pulled my camera out, pulled my phone out, and kind of over my shoulder, just shot a quick little video and photo of him. And I posted that right away and said, "Elvis has left the building." That was my caption. And that one was our biggest tweet or post of the entire 18 months I was working on social media. Because again, I think the Patriots retweeted it, the NFL might have retweeted it, and that one alone got a couple million impressions for our accounts. So it's little moments like that you never even know are going to happen. You can't prepare for, but you have to be ready. And this really applies for anybody in social media. You have to be ready to take the shot, so to speak. If you get the ball at the 3-point line, you got to take the shot. So when you see something happening, you got to be ready to grab the phone, flip on the camera mode, and go into action and go out and get that photo or video of whatever it is.
It's so interesting because you think about it. You studied journalism. You wanted to write for Sports Illustrated. And when you're doing those stories, of course, they're all calculated. And before social media, everything was about, let's get super calculated, tell this story, let's do this investigative report and whatever. Now with social media, we still, I imagine, you still have that going on because I'm sure you've got an editorial calendar and you're calculating the stories that you want to put out. But isn't it funny? It's almost more the designed serendipity, meaning get yourself in the right place because you never know what in the world's going to happen. And in that case, you have two instances where you happen to be in the right time, right place, and you had the journalistic chops to know it and to grab it and to send it.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, you hit the nail on the head. You have to be prepared for everything else. You have to have your content calendar. You have to have your shot list. You have to have your assignments of who on your team is going to go out and shoot photos, who's going to shoot video, who's going to cover TikTok, who's going to write the copy, who's live tweeting. You got to have your team assigned and prepared and ready for all those little things that you want to do and you want to capture and what you want to post. But many, many times it's the things you're not expecting that are the things that blow up and create the most buzz or virality, if you will, on social media for sure.
Yeah, because life happens.
Right.
Yeah.
And in sports, you never know what's going to happen in sports. Like you talked about, you thought the Seahawks were going to win and something crazy happens at the end of the game. So you gotta be prepared to go with the flow and adjust. And that's really the fun of it for me. It's that it brings an adrenaline rush to not know exactly what's going to happen. You prepare as much as you can, but it's the fun of the unexpected that really makes the job exciting.
You know, a story that I have from that event. So I was gifted tickets. I went with a friend of mine, a colleague of mine, and we were able to go to this big luncheon beforehand. And Terry Bradshaw there was speaking. And I actually ran into Terry Bradshaw in the parking lot, and I had my Seahawks garb on and put his arm around me, got a picture. And he kind of doesn't whisper in my ear, but he looks right at me and he goes, "Go beat those guys." And I go, "Right on. Terry Bradshaw's on our side."
I love it.
Here's the cool story. So we get in and we're sitting roughly on the end zone line on the visitor side of the field, and we're about 40 rows up. And sitting next to me is this young couple, and they were from Boston. They had the real thick Boston accent. I mean, they were like right out of Central Casting. And to look at them, I was being judgmental, Jeremy. I'll be the first to say it. I thought, boy, how did maybe this couple that doesn't look like they have a lot, financially going on, afford to be here? Well, we get to chatting and whatever. Turns out 2 weeks earlier, they had won a Dunkin' Donuts contest in Boston.
Wow.
2 weeks to go for the Super Bowl, fly out with the team, and they happened to be sitting next to me. And they were so pumped up. They were so cool amazing. Because their enthusiasm, I'm guessing they were 23-ish, 24 maybe.
Okay.
And I think the wife was even more into it than the guy was because she was going crazy. Anyways, the Seahawks are on that final push down the field. They make that unbelievable circus catch. It looks like it's destiny. They're going to win their second Super Bowl. And next to me, they just start deflating a little bit, deflating with every play. And then when, they hand the ball to Marshawn Lynch, he gains 7 yards down to like the 1.5 yard line. There's 24 seconds left. I think it's third down. So easily could have run it again, no big deal. And then we have that ill-fated pass. And that couple looked at me immediately, both of them, and they both said, "We're sorry." I thought that was so cool. They were so delighted to be there and have so much fun, even though they were upset. Then when they, went to the other side, they weren't giving me any crap. They just like put their arm around me and said, "Dude, man, we're sorry, but yoo-hoo, go Patriots."
Right. That's great. I thought you were going to make a Deflategate joke there when you said they were deflated. So,
but, God, I'm not that sharp, Jeremy. I'm not that sharp.
We saw the same thing in LA with a lot of the Rams fans. We saw a couple that weren't quite so kind to the Bengals fans around them, but the majority were, and that is always cool to see that we're all there as fans. Yeah, you want your team to win, but you feel bad for somebody that their team finally got to the Super Bowl, or it's the first Super Bowl they've ever been to, and then their hearts are crushed by something there at the end of the game, like yourself.
So as the social media QB for Super Bowl 57, how big is your team that you're working with to get these messages out on social?
That's a good question. Really, I'm the only one on the host committee that is dedicated to social at the moment. But it's really a team effort. Everybody, our head of marketing, our marketing coordinators, our communications team, our sponsorship sales, even Jay Perry, our president. They are all being vigilant and keeping an eye out for things that they can capture photos of and videos of, and they're sharing that with me. So if I'm not there when they happen to get something, I'm still getting good content. So that's a huge help. We've got an official host committee photographer. We've got a video guy that we work with. We have somebody that's developed the website. So there's a team of people really that are helping in a number of different ways and contributing content and assets that I can use. Graphic designer as well. But then as we get closer, I will be ramping up my own team as I have done every year for the PlayStation Fiesta Bowl and the Guaranteed Rate Bowl. A couple of my other clients, the Women's Premier Soccer League, the MMA and professional wrestling clients that I work with. So I've got a team of subcontractors that are photographers, video producers, on camera personalities, graphic designers, and I bring them in depending on the client and the event. So around really starting with bowl season for the again the Fiesta Bowl and Guaranteed Rate Bowl, all the way through the Super Bowl, I'll have a team of people that I'm working with, and we're really working round the clock to produce as much content as we can and cover every possible event that we can be at.
When you go in and you are sorting through all of these events and sponsorships and that sort of thing, and you're looking for story angles that you might be using now, you might be using them down the road, you just got to vet all the stuff of what seems like it might make a good story, there's really not much there.
Sure.
What do you look for? Or do you even have somewhat of a narrative or story or journalistic structure you bring to first kind of outline the story? Is there something here worth pursuing? And then when you're actually crafting and sharing that story, do you use any set frameworks?
It depends. For typically when I'm working with a client, they kind of have things that they want promoted and covered on social media. So it's not so much me deciding if something is a worthy story, if you will. It's me trying to figure out what the best way to tell the story is, whether it's a ribbon cutting or whether it's announcing a new sponsor, whether it's a field dedication, whatever it is, it's me making sure that we are covering it and trying to find the most unique, creative, fun, engaging way to do so. Whether that's through the photography, whether that's shooting some unique video and making some fun TikToks out of it, or making a cool music video, or whether it's making sure that we interview the right people to really get to the heart of the story and get the emotion told. So every story is a little different, and every event or thing that we're covering is a little different. So it's hard to say that we have necessarily a set framework. But going into it, we try to really think it through in advance of what probably is going to be the best way to cover it. And then, again, like I talked about earlier, being prepared to adjust on the fly if you need to, if you realize something's not quite working like you thought or hoped, or something else pops up that's like, oh, I didn't expect that, or I didn't know that this was going to be part of the story, or that this was going to be something such a cool visual. Then you kind of adjust and go from there.
Yeah. Have you had your hand slapped? Have you run with a story thinking, oh, this is great, only like, oops, something went awry with it, maybe something political about it or whatever? Because I would just imagine with the onslaught of information that you and your team have to manage, that there would be a misstep every now and again. It just seems like natural in the business.
Yeah, there are missteps every now and then, but rarely, knock on wood, rarely is it a judgment misstep. It's more than likely a misspelling, or we accidentally tagged the wrong account. We were trying to tag, tag a sponsor, and accidentally tagged, some other brand that had a name that was really close, or a grammatical error, or we accidentally used the wrong link, or accidentally deleted a character at the end of the bit.ly link and now it doesn't work. It's those kind of mistakes more than a judgment call. So I wouldn't say that I've had my hand slapped, at least not recently. In my previous life, when I was with the Phoenix Suns, I had my hand slapped a few times here and there, and that you kind of learn early on. I'd say in my career, I learned early on how to not get your hand slapped and make the right judgment call, or run things up the flagpole. If you're not sure about something, or you have an idea that might be a little out there, a little something that a little edgy or a little unique, you want to get buy-in from a couple other people to make sure that your thinking on the matter is correct and the others agree with it. So you don't want to be like a renegade and just start posting stuff. That'll get you in trouble on social media. And I've seen a lot of people over the years get fired because they used the wrong emojis and offended someone, or said something that they thought was really funny and nobody else did. So you got to be really careful.
Well, I asked that, I guess, for that very reason. So many people, you're posting out there. We all get to be our own TV stations, radio stations, print production houses,
sure,
24/7 from our kitchen table. And we all make missteps now and again. A lot of times when we don't have the Super Bowl on the line or gaining that kind of attention, maybe our missteps aren't quite so obvious. And I'm just curious how much of that is. I mean, people really taking a look at what you're sharing out there just to make sure that it is in line with, the brand, social mores, that kind of thing, without getting too edgy,
Yeah, absolutely. You can do things that are edgy and off the wall and get a lot of attention on social media, but it also might not be the right attention. So it's more important, especially in my role as a consultant or social strategist, I guess, if you will, to make sure that I'm representing the brand I'm working for as well as possible and putting them in the best light possible. So I need to tell their brand story. I'd rather tell their brand story in a way that may not be quite as exciting than do something that's going to get a lot of attention, but they're not going to be happy with.
Yeah. Is there anything coming up behind the scenes that maybe we don't know that you do that you're especially excited about? Something that's going to give you a leg up on social media this year that you hadn't been able to do in the past, or maybe a new story you're going to be sharing that you can reveal to us?
We've got some things planned. Nothing I can say too much about right now. We will have a really big social media sweepstakes that'll be exciting, giving away some big prizes, and we will be reintroducing our mascot this summer, so that'll be fun. And then come next bowl season, we will open our social media command center, similar to what I talked about in Miami. But we've got some fun plans for that. If we, again, I don't want to go too far into it because nothing's 100% confirmed. But if we can pull off our ideas and plans, I think it'll be unique and something different that has not been seen for previous Super Bowls. And so, yeah, we're certainly brainstorming and constantly trying to come up with new concepts and ideas. But what's fun for me is that every year social media evolves. Pretty much every 3 or 4 months, there's new features and new things to take advantage of. And so there's a lot of things we're doing today that we didn't do in 2015 or couldn't do in 2015. And, at that time, I remember the channel that I was really excited about and used a ton during 2015 was Vine, which of course hasn't been around in quite a while now. It's been, it was closed down by Twitter years ago. And we used Snapchat a lot at that point. And of course, there was no TikTok and there was no Instagram stories or Instagram Reels. And you couldn't go live on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram and TikTok. And so there's so many different opportunities now that really it's a matter of trying to take advantage of all those and really have fun utilizing all those features and tools that are available to us.
Did you see that article last week that really, I guess, sort of surprised me, but maybe didn't in hindsight, where college football has been in decline for attendance over the past 7 years, and it doesn't seem like it's going to pull out of it anytime soon?
I did not see that, no.
Yeah, significant declines, and even viewership is down. And I'm just kind of curious if the NFL is experiencing any of that at all.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I'd love to read the article because I wonder how much COVID affects those numbers. Like, if there was no fans in the stadium and that's going to hurt lower attendance over a certain number of years. And then there probably was less people watching TV because it's not as fun to watch a TV game if there's no crowd. It just kind of takes away from the atmosphere a little bit on television. So I wonder if that played into those numbers at all or not, because I certainly haven't heard that.
I read it, on CBS News did a report on it, and they were talking about it's been in decline. So yes, COVID certainly had a hit on it, but it was in decline 5 years before
Even
COVID.
Interesting.
And they're saying what they're competing with is the 70-inch TV sitting in people's living room. And
Sure,
I
I could
confess,
see that.
I've got one now.
Yeah.
The inexpensive beer in the refrigerator that I don't have to
Right.
stand in line for 30 minutes. The TV timeout. So I'm guilty of recording every football game I watch and then watching it 60 to 90 minutes after kickoff, so I can fast forward through all the lulls and get to the last 5 minutes of live football and
Right.
catch that. I've got it down to a science. And honestly, I was at ASU a couple years ago when the Washington State University Cougars came to play. The stadium was half full. It was hot. I did stand in line for 30 minutes for a $10 beer. And I told myself, I don't know if I'll ever go to another live football game unless, of course, it's the Super Bowl or something significant, because it's such a pain in the neck. And I'm just kind of curious, and it takes your entire day, of course. And I'm just kind of curious if you guys are dealing with that at all. Granted, the Super Bowl, you're going to fill up no matter what, but was just wondering in the other college bowl games and whatever, if that comes into play, when you are telling your stories out there.
Yeah, that's a great question. I'll be honest that I've really not heard a lot of that conversation among my clients or among the meetings I've been in, or in terms of it being a big concern. But I would say that all of my clients across sports, multiple different sports, and this even dates back to when I was still with the Suns, they're always trying to think of new ways to make the fan experience better and to enhance the fan experience, make it easier to get into the building, make it easier to order your food and beverage over your phone. One of my clients is Yinscam, which is the premier mobile app developer in the country. With the majority of, they develop most of the NFL and NBA team apps, along with apps in La Liga in Spain, the NHL. They're all over the place. But anyway, their big focus of mobile apps these days is really the utilities and making it an important business tool for teams. So mobile apps started really as content. That's where you got your stats and your roster and your schedule and your news articles. And they still have that content, but now it's really important to use the apps to make the experience for fans better, so that it's easier to buy your parking ticket and get into the building, to use your mobile ticket to scan to get in, to order the concessions and even merchandise from your phone and bypass the long lines. And or to see wayfinding and follow the dot pattern on the map on the phone to the closest restroom or the closest concession stand or elevator, whatever it is. So, long-winded answer to say that I know that sports teams and leagues and properties are certainly aware of the challenge that the 70 and 80-inch TV at home HD presents. Sometimes it is easier to watch a game at home, and sometimes it is more comfortable and takes less time. But there's, in my mind, there's nothing like the live experience of being at a big game, right, and an exciting game, and cheering on your team that you love and root for. So I don't think that's ever going to go away, but it's certainly important to keep that in mind for teams and not just rest on their laurels and assume that everybody's going to want to, always come and pay whatever amounts it takes and wait in whatever long lines. You got to keep trying to improve the experience, make it easier, make it more fun, make it more convenient, and so there aren't those barriers at all.
Yeah. All right. Final question for you, Jeremy. From the social media QB position, what are 2 or 3 things that are kind of your go-to plays? Meaning, when you are sharing a story on social media, are there 2 or 3 things you're always kind of looking for, keeping an eye out, that have proven successful in your storytelling online?
Wow. I wish you'd given me that question before we started, so I could have really come up with some really ingenious answers there. There are so many aspects to social media now. It's funny. A lot of people, I was just talking to somebody about this the other day. A lot of people still kind of think, oh, it's just you just need the intern to, hit send and that's it. That's all there is to it. But there's so much more to it, from, thinking about what that copy is going to say. What's going to hook people to either make them laugh, make them think, inform them about something important. What's the visual that's going to make them want to stop when they're scrolling in their Twitter feed or their Instagram feed and actually look at what it is or watch the video? What's the thumbnail, that catches their eye initially. How long should that video be? Who should you tag in hopes that they'll share it or retweet it? Who do you want to invite to collaborate with you on the Instagram reel so that they share to their audience as well? There's so many different things to think about that I don't know that I have one in particular that I would say is really going to be a difference maker for anybody. But one thing I am constantly telling people that I work with and telling students that I teach I've taught some classes at Arizona State's WP Carey School, and even my own daughter, who's now taking up photography. I tell them to shoot 1,000 photos and hope that 10 turn out really good. And so that's something that I think any content producer should be thinking about, is just trying to get as many different photos and video clips and angles and interview and sound bites that you can, and then sort through it and pick out the best content to post, and really look for good content to share. Because really, you can post, a million different things, but it's the 2 or 3 that really stand out that are going to make the biggest difference for you. So it's better to post really strong, great content than just post a ton. And I know I'm rambling because I don't have like that one gold and silver, or that silver bullet, I guess, to share with anybody. But really think through your content. Think about how to word it. Think about how it looks. Think about who you want to post to and tag, and just be thoughtful about social media in general, I guess.
Yeah, well, I didn't mean to put you on the hook there, because I know you know this business inside and out, but I think it indicates, you were working on an ever-changing playing field in social media. Like
Sure.
you said, it evolves like every 3 weeks. So there's probably not that real go-to. You pointed to visuals, which would be the one go-to from our Homo sapiens storytelling brain is, oh yeah, there's
Right.
an image that has that, caught me for a second, just enough that hopefully then that little headline's going to pay it off to get me to click to go in. So no, I think I really appreciate your candid answer in that. And the fact that is, there is no right answer. We're all still learning as we go on this.
That's a great way to say it. That you have to be flexible. You have to be paying attention to what other brands and similar accounts to yours are doing, and be open-minded to try new things. And something that you may not think works suddenly blows up for someone else. And so, be willing to adjust and shift. And you can't, in social media, you can't have a rigid plan or a rigid way of thinking either, because it does evolve constantly. And so, just like storytelling, you got to find the best way to hook people and catch their eye with that strong lead or that strong image, and get them to carry on through the rest of your story.
All right, Super Bowl 57 prediction. Who will the Seattle Seahawks beat this year?
I'm pretty sure the Cardinals are going to be there this year, right? Because
it could be. Could be, absolutely.
I think there had never been a home team, or there had never been a team to play in a Super Bowl in their home stadium until the Tampa Bay Buccaneers did it 2 years ago. They won, and then the Rams repeated, did the exact same thing this last year. They won. So I think it's now a trend. So now this year it'll be the Cardinals at the State Farm Stadium.
Naturally, the Cardinals.
And the Cardinals will win. Yeah, absolutely.
All right, maybe playing the Cincinnati Bengals again.
I would like that. I would take that. I'm a big Joey B fan. That'd be great.
Yeah, he's fun to watch. Jeremy, thank you so much for taking the time to be here. I know you got a ton on your plate, but really appreciate you sharing your wisdom as the Super Bowl social media QB. I love that title.
Thank you. Thanks, Park. I appreciate it. Thanks so much for having me. It's an honor to be on the show, and always good to reconnect with you.
Thank you all for listening to this edition. If you liked what Jeremy had to say and you want to share it with some of your friends, families, colleagues, by all means, shoot them a link to this episode. If I can be of service to you, come on over to thebusinessofstory.com, where I've got tools, tips, techniques, talent like Jeremy there to share their wisdom for you so that you can craft and tell compelling stories that actually sell. And until next Monday, when we'll have another story artist right here for you, like Jeremy, remember that the most potent story you ever tell is the story you tell yourself. So make it a great one. Thanks so much for listening.